Very good. We've forgotten. Forget to turn it back on. Okay, we're ready to begin. I call the meeting to order at a little after 6:02. Are there any additions or deletions? Privilege of the floor. Anyone who'd like to address the board? Here in person or Rhonda?
I just wanted to make a couple of comments about the organizational chart. So this is really maybe for Mariah, but in looking at the organizational chart, the planning, I would like to see on the left side just a change of hierarchy where the planning board is followed by the BZA, is followed by the CAC, is followed by the youth commission. But I also have another question about that, and that depends on how the town board and the town clerk view the planning board and the BZA. Is the planner the main person people should be contacting about if they have questions about the planning board and the BZA? Or is it the town clerk? If it's the planner, then I think that where the planner icon is, the BZA and the planning board should be connected to him. If it's just the town clerk, if the town clerk is going to be giving information out about the BZA and the planning board, then that wouldn't apply. But I think you have to decide who is the main contact for town people who maybe they want to attend meetings, or they're thinking of actually applying to be on the board or whatever. Who are they supposed to contact? And think about that and make that decision if you haven't made it already. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary?
Yes, I just wanted to bring up, we've got a new law that was passed by the state whereby a tenant can sue a landlord for not fixing repairs around the property or their apartment. And we've got one coming up on this. And one of the stipulation is who's going to handle this after the court rules, say the court rules in favor of the tenant to repair this stuff. Who's going to follow up to make sure that that property is habitable? Is it going to be Steve or somebody else? You understand what I'm saying about it, though?
I do. It's a good question.
I would assume it'd be Steve, but there again, I don't know what the town board's liking is on this, but somebody's going to have to follow up on it.
Well, assuming that if what's being brought up is a code violation, then it would be Steve.
I mean, this just went into effect in January, and we've got our first one coming up probably later this month, I'm assuming.
Mhm. So depending on what it is that's being complained about, does it have to be a code violation in order for it to be a suable offense?
I haven't looked through the whole law, but I did know that, if there's no heat, no water, stuff like that, that you gotta have in order to live in a property, that, those are part of it. Code violations, I'm not sure if specific code violations were mentioned, but I know that for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Steve's here, maybe he can speak to it. Are you there, Steve? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here.
You understand what I was saying, Steve?
Yeah, I do. I think if it's code violations, if they are code violations, definitely you would want me to do the inspections. Even if it's not code violations, I think the court could possibly direct that no one could rehabit the place until it was inspected by a town official, namely the code officer or something like that. It could be part of your stipulations or something.
Well, like I say, I just had training on this, and it just so happens one walked into the court this morning about it. So, you know, depending on how I rule on the case, I've read what the violations are, or what the complaints are, and depending on how it turns out, somebody's gonna, if I rule in favor of the tenant, somebody from the town should go and inspect this property to make sure the landlord's taking care of it before he rents the place out again.
Yep, I would agree with that. And you might want to you might want to let me know when that trial is so that I can make sure I'm available to you in case you need to recess and come and ask me questions.
All right.
You know,
We can do that. I mean, there's time limits. They have to serve the petition and notice a petition. And then they have to come back once they've served it and file for a court date. So it's not going to be till the end of the month, maybe the first of next month, somewhere in there.
okay. Yeah. I mean, if you want, keep me in the loop. I'll definitely work with you on it.
All right, I'll let you know then.
All right.
Okay, good to know about that. Thanks, Gary.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Okay. Over here. I don't believe there's any correspondence.
There's correspondence listed here.
Oh, you printed it earlier. It was the
Renewal application.
right
Giant
for the
Pond.
Jennings Pond, which wasn't really correspondence, so I pulled it and sent it to Mary Ann. Apply. Mary Ann Kozak.
Oh, okay. Right.
Between her and Laura, they can fill it out and get it done. Any announcements? Anybody? Reports? Didn't actually, I saw the code officer before, didn't see the court report, but yeah. And then we have Greg. You want to address this about, you want to give a report and then deal with the other stuff on the agenda, or?
Sure. There's a lot of stuff on the agenda tonight that will include me, but I'll just give a short report, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on, but first let's touch on some just enforcement things, enforcement issues. So as you know, just we're gearing up to issue a notice of violation to the property owner who held the barbecue party last year. So just collecting things in that nature to issue that. I did speak with him last week by telephone, and so he is aware. And also he just, I'll pass along. He said he's not going to plan to do it again this year. But I said that's not going to
Believe him?
it's just. But he did let me know that he didn't want to go through that again. And then I did an inspection last week. There was a lot of time I spent out at the last 2 weeks out at the Norbert Solar Farm site right up here on Bald Hill Road. It was sort of a mandatory inspection that I had planned before they started construction. And so I went out there, and I went out there with Angel Hennikel from Soil and Water Conservation District. And there were a number of things that were going on the site, just some erosion control measures. We went out there on a particularly very rainy day just to see how things acted. There were concerns raised on our end, so we did follow up with the DEC, and then I met a DEC representative out on site for a few hours, and we sat down with the new project manager. Some of the issue, and it is inexcusable, but they've had a lot of change of staff, and so there are some new guys on board who are assuring that they're going to be cleaning things up and just getting things right, but it's a lot of the predecessors that didn't quite follow the protocol to implement erosion control measures. But they just sent me pictures today. They are working on it. They might have violations and fines from the DEC, so this is beyond the town. So I'll be getting that report probably in a couple of weeks from the DEC, but the representative was pretty blunt in saying that you know, there might be some fines that are going to come with this. Let's see. We had a busy planning board meeting last month. There's a subdivision proposal on Updike Road, minor subdivision. We also looked at the Rise Up Community Farm proposal on Hornbrook Road. That raised a lot of questions just due to the nature of the site and it being in proximity to a perennial stream and a lot of sensitive environmental resources. So I'm working with the developer or the applicant really on addressing those concerns. They won't be coming back to the planning board this month. There's just a lot of things that they need to address. The biggest one is just to see if they can even get a septic on that site, given the number of bedrooms and kitchens that they're proposing. And then the third application was for George's Coffee Shop, and we have the applicants here in the room over here on Danby Road. Right, coffee shop and bakery. So that was a preliminary sketch plan review, and so we might see if at first a coffee trailer over there, and then maybe a more brick and mortar store eventually in the future. But it was at least a good pass just to have the board sort of see the proposal and ask questions about it. I'm working on a special event law, which we'll go over a little bit more tonight, as well as some zoning amendments. The CDBG multifamily housing grant that the town was awarded. We identified a consultant to help manage it, Toma Development Consultant. We have yet to, Joel has signed the contract. We've yet to receive a signed contract from them. But they will be coming on board shortly. I'm already getting calls from people that own multifamily homes. Yeah. And then I submitted the beautification grant last Friday. So that was for doing some landscaping out here at the town hall property. And there's probably a whole lot other stuff that I'm doing, like lots of meetings. I didn't write those down on this report, but any questions? Yeah.
Turn your mic on.
Relative to the
Rise Up.
the Rise Up community, I just was thinking, somebody said something to me today that made me wonder about, you know, one of the charges that the CAC was supposed to take on was to advise groups on environmental issues, or I'm just wondering, I mean, this to me is something that I would like to ask the CAC to give feedback on that, but I don't know, you know, would that have to come from the planning board? Can the town board say, please CAC, take a look at, you know, I'm just even the environmental assessment thing that got done up, really needed work. But they're supposed to be advising the town on these sorts of issues.
Yeah, I don't know if there needs to be a formal channel. I'm happy to just send them the email a proposal and ask for
Okay.
Ask for feedback on it. It's like sending a proposal to you know, an engineer or the fire department just to kind of get their take on it. So
Right.
no, I'm happy to do
I mean, I
that.
know that you know, we've asked them to do things with you know, other projects to take
Yeah,
on.
no,
But,
and in
but
fact,
looking at, they were, you know, also in there was the hope that they would be active in looking at planning board and BZA stuff, you know, that maybe not BZA as much, but that they'd be an asset to the planning board.
Yeah, maybe I can reach out to them and ask them for at their next meeting, if they,
Which is next week.
next week, okay?
Yeah.
And it's not that in a time rush, as I said, I think
Right.
it might be a little bit of time before the applicant comes back, to the planning board, because there's a long list of things that we've asked them to address. But, I'll at least put on the CAC's radar that if they could just review it at a meeting. Anything else?
Nope.
Great.
Not now, but.
Yeah.
Right,
Not
later.
yet.
When did the February 21st meeting minutes become available? I don't remember.
We got an email a couple of days ago.
Couple days ago. Missed it.
Can I just add one thing to what I stated before? It's
Sure.
about the law. And I think Steve is gonna have to be the one that takes care of this. There's just 3 bulleted items. And the reasons that somebody can file this petition is, if there's any violations of any, state uniform codes and fire and building codes, any New York State property maintenance codes, and local ordinances or county or municipal housing standards. I just want to tell you what it included and why people file it. So I'm assuming that would come under Steve's.
Sounds like it.
All right, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, good. Okay. Suspected as much. I haven't read the minutes, but if you all have, you are okay with them. Okay. Opposition, that was true, did take too long. I mean, if you want to entertain approving them, you could.
I move we approve the
Yeah.
February 21st draft minutes. Second.
Any discussions or? Okay. Raya,
Connors,
Yes.
Hanson, oh, sorry, Hunter,
Yes.
Woodworth,
Yes.
Gagnon,
abstain.
oh, abstain, hold on, yeah, got you.
Right, it passes, it only takes 3. All right, on to the warrants. There's only 2 this time.
Well, I wasn't able to. I was busy all
You did.
I move we approve highway fund, general fund voucher 66 of 79 for $11,423.
Second that. Any discussion? No. Okay, Mariah. Mariah, are you there?
Sorry. Connors,
I'm gonna abstain.
Hunter,
Yes.
Woodworth,
Yes.
Gagnon,
Yes.
thank you.
I move we approve highway fund vouchers 30 to 38 for $29,577.08.
557?
557, what did I say?
77.
Oop, 57.
Second that. Any discussion? Okay,
Connors,
Abstain.
abstain, so,
Yep.
sorry. Hunter,
Yes.
Woodworth,
Yes.
Gagnon,
yes.
thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Laura.
Laura.
Yeah,
So sorry it was,
yeah, she's there.
morning of, so I apologize for that, for being under the weather this weekend and on Friday.
Feel better.
But you guys pulled it off, you always do. Thank you.
Yeah, Jody Schreiber, stepping down as chair of the planning board, but remaining on the planning board. I guess Kelly Mar has volunteered and everybody said yes. So I move we appoint her to the chair.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Not, vote.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the name of the person that you're appointing?
Kelly Maher?
Kelly, Kelly?
Yeah, I think it's
Thank you.
M-A-H-A-R. E-R.
M-A-H-A-R. The Maher. She pronounced it Maher, didn't she?
All right, are we ready?
Yep.
Connors,
Yes.
Hunter,
Yes.
Woodworth,
Yes.
Gagnon.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, you're up. Oh, that one might be more comfortable. Yeah. Yeah.
Zoning is on the agenda first.
Okay.
All right, I do have a couple of things to pass out. Here, if you want to just take one and pass it down. So we haven't looked at these since January. I just wanted to revive this discussion, just about some we call them the low hanging fruit. And last time there was some, I made some proposals and there was some discussion on some of them, and like the accessory structure, all the regulations around those. So I actually pulled that one off. I said, well, maybe we'll just kind of table that for now, and maybe some of these have to go to more of a committee to look at. But I just pulled out a few that I thought might be more just palatable just to take a look at as the town board. But I'll leave that up to you. So on this list, we have just a few zone districts called out. The Rural One Zone District, the Hamlet Neighborhood Zone District, and the Hamlet Center Zone District. And most of these you've seen before, except for the very first one. So this was something that actually, Joel, I think you caught in your, or you had a question about, and then I just put it on a sidebar for myself, and I just pulled it back out. So in the zone district currently, if somebody wants to, if there's a vacant piece of vacant piece of land, and somebody wants to build a home, they have to go through a site plan review process. And so I'm proposing just to make that like every other zone district, which is a principal use permitted by right. So just through a building permit, and then working with me, and the zoning to just make sure it meets the other regulations. I know that the attorney for the town might have something to say about requiring site plan review for single family homes. And so I'm
Not a fan.
right. He's definitely not a fan. There are a number of places in town where you do have to go through a site plan review for a single family home, such as if you're in certain overlay zone districts, certain more protective areas, such as the property up on Hornbrook Road. This proposal is just saying if it's a rural one property and it's an existing lot, then a home would be allowed as a permitted use by right. And again, so just to be clear, also too, for everyone out there in the Zoom land and in the public, that there's no action being taken tonight by the town board. This is just a preview here.
Are they the same, in the rural one zone, does it have the same guidelines regarding the setbacks and so forth as in rural two and other zones, or was this supposed to be dealt with because it's by site plan?
I'm not, well, the setbacks, I can give you that, but I'm not sure about why it was put in site plan.
Well, I mean, I think it was, you touched on it, because, the rural one was seen as well, the second least restrictive, second most restrictive zone of all of them. And for that reason, it was regarded as, sensitive siting is wanted. Arguable, but I think that was sort of the way it was seen.
But you had just said that, any of the overlays where there is environmental issues are automatically covered by other.
Yeah, if it's in,
Right.
yeah, if it's in
Yeah,
a stream corridor or,
some of the stream corridors don't even allow you to do anything in them, but,
Yeah.
but the habitat corridor, any new impervious surface has to go through a site plan review. So there's already those protections for that. So, and in terms of the setbacks, they are the same setbacks. The only difference in setbacks is for cluster subdivision. So in the rural one, the minimum distance
right, more.
is 600 feet from existing homes versus 300 feet in the rural two. So I'm just, proposing that. That's a new one that we haven't seen. So, that's difficult to say, where you all might go with that, but just wanted to put that on the list because I thought that was one that caught my eye. Nobody in the rural one since I've been here has asked to build a home, I don't think. So it's a pretty rare instance. People have asked about subdividing land, but not building a home. It was just something that just caught my eye because knowing how the attorney feels about that. But
That's right. Well, I mean, I think it might be worth sort of engaging with the board accepted.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Need to think about it. I want to look through. I don't know. I like site plan review. I think, I'm trying to sort of protect some of the land and to not have, I know it's not rural two, so it's not as, it's not deemed as valuable or preservable, but I know there was a lot of conversation around siting of houses in the different zones, like hopefully maybe not like right in the middle of a field or so,
Yeah.
that's a conversation that I remember going on at the time,
Mhm.
which I think led people to say, well, site plan review could take care of that, but
That was my proposal originally, and if David were sitting here, he would not be even bringing this up.
Yeah, you're,
thanks. So anyway, I just would want to look through it more. I mean,
Maybe a really quick review of what a site plan can and can't do, because I think we have ideas that they can do all kinds of things that they can't. And
yeah, I mean, so I had sent some communications about that, what site plan review is, and
you can't say no.
you can't say no,
right.
yeah, and unless that there is some sort of, very unique feature of the property that just precludes any development.
It's all about mitigating
Right.
negative impact.
Right.
it could be impact on neighbors or.
Yeah. Yeah, or, sensitive aspects of the site.
Right.
But I would say for somebody to build their home, which is like a very core value of private property rights in this country, to have neighbors chime in about the impacts of that house just feels really, it feels really uncomfortable.
It wouldn't be neighbors, it'd be planning board.
But that's what I mean
Yeah.
is if you imagine yourself buying land here in Danby and then to build your home, it's one thing to say you're in a protected zone that, you know, there's environmental resources here. That's reasonable in my mind, but to just, you know, it's a very, very large, widespread zone district across town. And to just say that you have to go through a site plan review to build your home and one of your very basic bundle, you know, your very basic sticks in your bundle of rights, it really, it's kind of a risky thing to make people to go through.
I
Yeah.
actually agree. I think
Yeah.
it's, unless there's something environmentally, unique about the property, which is already covered.
Right.
I don't think there's a need for site plan review, especially since they can't say no anyway.
Right.
There's
And
no
then,
vested right to build in New York City. The courts have, in New York State, the courts have ruled this.
yeah, it's not helpful to have extra commentary during this discussion.
But I would just like to look at it, and I think they're historically, historically site plan review hasn't really, been that nasty to people who want to build. I mean, it's usually been an okay, with few exceptions, and some neighborhoods have done really well at really, sticking it to property owners. Yeah, I want to look at it. I want to look at it more.
I do think
But
what's
that's interesting.
useful is, if there is support for zoning for the, people in the town that can help somebody that wants to put a house, give guidance on where a good place and bad places are for it.
Right, to have it be going through a public process?
No,
Or-
just that they have somebody that they can ask. Or they can ask here and then get
Right.
referred to someplace else so that they can have some help in deciding where to put it that's effective.
You mean by working with me?
You
Well,
as
you-
a zone,
right,
or
right.
the code officer,
Yeah.
that's another thing that could help too.
Yeah, and that's, you know, often how it goes.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
just a conversation with people about, where they're intending to,
Yeah.
gonna put a home.
Mhm.
Those kind of conversations just come up anyway. I mean, when people come to our office and it's not a lot, we see, homes come through. But if somebody wants to build something, we look at the wetlands, we look at, on an aerial and just kind of, look at everything. But when we think about the environmental impact, even when it goes through if it would go through a planning board review, seeker doesn't touch it. I mean, it's an exempt action, so it wouldn't get a seeker review.
No, but there's a place where the CAC could be involved.
No,
Yeah, but
Depends on the property.
I just think if
No, I mean,
it,
No,
Well,
it
the
just feels,
main concern is the environmental impact of the siting. Then it seems appropriate that, us helping, somebody assess that is what the CHC would be, good for.
yeah, I mean, I think on a volunteer basis, I mean, if somebody, had a piece of property in a zone district and said, I'm looking to build my home, and, if they brought up if they said, here's the characteristics of my site, is there, do you advise on kind of where I should put this?
Right.
I might send them over to CAC or people that have been that.
There's already the whole issue of having a septic system, which can change a whole lot about what people think they might want when they buy the piece of property. And they might get in there and say, oh, I guess I have to put it in a different place because I can't get a septic. It won't fit on that place that I thought. But I
Right.
think that, so there's lots of places that people can get help before they dig a hole.
Right.
That, I think maybe that's where the question is what is involved before they actually dig a hole that then, that happened at Beardsley. And so sometimes people are reactionary because of that, and that not, I think we have to be careful, just saying you can't build a house, or you have to come and ask us everything. I
Well, I
don't,
mean,
the site plan review shouldn't be doing that.
right, exactly.
Right,
You're not
that
saying you
would do
can't
it.
build it, you're saying
Well,
It might be you can't build it there.
I get that, but I think what I'm saying is there's already a lot of things they have to go through before they can even
Yeah,
do
yeah.
that. That might solve those questions,
yeah.
So we don't need an extra step.
right? That's sort of where I feel about it too. I mean, I've been looking at this people's rights thing and
Mhm.
it's a touchy subject.
It is a touchy subject. I mean, if I bought a property, I might bristle at the idea of somebody else telling me where I can put my house.
Right.
Yeah,
So it's how, yeah.
so, we're talking about creating a bundle, which this would be one piece.
Which bundle?
A bundle of things to propose as a.
Right,
Change.
I'm starting to, I'm feeling like that these are not so quick and that, you know, they, you know, going back to your suggestion, Joel, of having a committee. Yeah. Well,
Well, I mean, I think that's the appropriate way to deal with it. So,
Yeah,
you know, if there are no real low hanging fruit, then, you know, things need to be talked through before you, make a proposal.
Right, but I don't know. I
Two
mean, the
things-
committee thing, I mean, if looking at the maps and the rest, how it fits in with the rest of the zoning, what other changes would need to be put into the zoning to make it, you know, I just want to look at stuff. I'm not even saying that I necessarily disagree with it.
Yeah.
So, but, I mean, the first thing I want to look at the map and look where all the zone ones are. And just to refresh my memory of why it is zone one and what's the definition of the zone one?
That might be.
What is the,
what-
you know, what is the purpose of it?
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
To refresh my memory, zone one is the most restrictive, right? It goes one and then two is
Yeah.
less and then
Yeah.
three, and then comes, low density residential.
right,
yeah,
right.
So this is the most restrictive one, I forget what it's called, is the one that's already.
Yes, it's a high priority conservation,
Yeah,
right?
it's already conservation.
You know, it's not, I mean, I'll just say it's, as I said, I don't think there's been any, there has not been anybody to propose a home in the rural one yet, because I would have taken them through site plan review. So that has not happened in the 6 months I'm here. So it's not some pressing need right now. It's just, it was something I saw that I thought that feels like overkill.
I'm glad you brought it up. And
Yeah,
Since this is a list of things that we're looking as possibilities,
Right.
then that means we'll look at some other things and consider it
Sure.
next time. We weren't voting tonight anyhow, so
No.
it doesn't matter.
Right,
No.
right. Well, then, you know, there are just 5 things on this list, so we just covered one of them. Let me just start then with so in the Hamlet neighborhood zone, the next one down might be sort of, you know, getting into more discussion, so that might not be, you know, it's the uses, all uses in the Hamlet neighborhood requiring to meet a maximum 20-foot front setback. And then last time the board thought, well, maybe there was some agreement with that and some disagreement with that, and thought maybe it's, you know, if you're on 96/34 or 96B, you're pushed back further than 20 feet, and then maybe on the side roads it's a little bit less, but it's still more than 20 feet. My proposal is still just to exempt residential uses from the maximum setback. I did an average distance in the Hamlet neighborhoods across town. The shortest distance that a structure is from all roads in Hamlet neighborhoods is 6 feet. The farthest distance is 462. There's 370 structures. The average is 63 feet. It doesn't, I didn't differentiate between the highways versus the local roads. So this one still might be more of just a, you know, I left my proposal the same just because I think residential uses should be exempt from maximum setback, but there's, you know, I understand that maybe if it's a little bit more nuanced than that, then I can kind of work a little bit more on that.
I like that,
That's
I
come
like
up.
that change.
I do
I
not.
do not like forcing residents to be sitting on the road. There's
Right.
no reason to do that if they have a big enough property that they can put it back. And they can manage
Well, there is
the road.
There is a reason, and a
Yeah.
very good one, because we're talking about the Hamlet neighborhood zone. And the problem we've had for decades, really, is that people have chosen to build in the hamlet the same way as if they were on a back road, which is way the heck back off the road. So it doesn't relate to anything near, and it makes it very difficult to build it out in some meaningful way. If we're talking about focusing development in the hamlets, how do you do that when somebody takes 20 acres and built, way the heck back? So that was the point of putting this in. It wasn't anything I put in, it's what David put in, because it's part of development guidelines for areas that they are built up or want to be built up.
But when you
If
build
pull the
something
house
in the
closer to
back,
road-
one of the things you have is the option of, you allow for other places to be built if you subdivide, to have other places built that are closer to the road. And that by putting it in the back to start with, you allow more options for people that might want to be close to the road, where you don't have that option. If they're already close to the road, then make them go in the back. So I don't think it helps.
Yeah, and that is a very good point, Pat, actually, because that is, if you look at the Hamlet neighborhood, there are some very large properties, deep properties, and that thought did come up of, well, exempting any residential use from this max setback means that people could be very creative with their large lots. They could maybe locate a couple of houses in the back, and then after a couple of years, maybe locate more as you get to the front. Whereas if you started locating or were required to line the road and you had all this deep lot, you might restrict from building a road to the back or getting into the back. Exempting my take is that exempting residential uses just allows a little bit more creativity with these lots.
Well, I think you could probably legislate creativity. If it could be, I think that, if you could show how the property could be subsequently developed, in a hamlet density kind of way, with a house located farther back, so you say, okay, if this house is there, how would you develop, the rest of it? Then I'd be much more receptive to the idea.
But it's not how would you, it's how could you?
Well,
Because it might not be that they planned this ahead of time.
right,
I
exactly.
wouldn't.
No.
When we built our house and we put our house in the middle of nowhere, a long way back from the road, one of the assumptions was we looked at it and we could have houses in the front. And when our neighbor built the one with the airstrip, when he built it back, he actually put in he planned this, the possibility of having those, by having cutoffs for his electric power line at various places along the way so others could do it. But it's not that he planned to do that, but it was possible to do that, and not likely possible otherwise.
Yeah, that's not, that when I say could, or I'm not saying would, and I'd like to see, what I would say is that kind of pre-planning is not, I'm not going to necessarily do this, but I'm going to show that it could be done, whether or not I ever do it. Just so there's some rationality to not messing things up by sticking a house in the middle someplace that's going to make it really hard to do anything else.
I think a problem is using those words like messing things up. That's a personal view. Some of these are personal views of what we think. And then we're talking about a whole, it's not just the planning board or 5 people sitting here. There's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And we already know that depending on the surface of the road, there's a lot of issues about putting a house really close to a road, a residential. When you could have a business that you could have a business close to the road and have the residents further back. So that allows you to, and for instance, when I was thinking about if somebody had big space, and then they wanted to put a park back there and a store up front that was inviting business to, for my silly idea about the bird watching thing, would be a great place to have a park and a walkway and the house back there and that, or whatever. I just think that, I don't think it's going to stifle the idea that people might come up with after the fact when, I don't think it's good for us to legislate where people put things anymore. I think that, I get it a lot, but.
And once we know that it's possible to do these options.
That's a good point.
We know that it's possible. We know that it's possible in many of these cases. We don't have to legislate them that they can't do it because they might not want to do it now. They might think about it in the future. I'd rather not legislate that now. I'd rather allow much more options for the houses.
Imagine
And
having,
it's not just houses that can go forward, but if you put the house on the road, you're not gonna have a business at all in that property because you're not gonna put a business behind a house. So you're eliminating businessing possibilities.
when you could have, let's say it was you had a farm out by the road where a farm stand and a farm where people could actually see it, and then we had variety in a town. Anyway, I said enough.
But there is a difference, or at least there ought to be a difference between, the hamlets and the, you know, the more rural parts of the town.
Well, I'm not talking about a massive farm. People might call it, I mean, I'm talking about a plot where that could be, you could have a berry picking thing right by the road.
Yeah.
And it would be.
Sure. It's not precluded.
And we already have differences between the Hamlet neighborhood. There are already things that can be done in the Hamlet that can't be done in the other rural districts. That's already built into lots and lots of things, primarily businesses, which is what we wanted. This is not helping businesses, period.
Yeah, I mean, I was under the assumption that most people agreed that the 20-foot maximum front setback was a little,
Well,
Yeah,
I
much.
agree. I agree that
So-
that's
so-
too close.
you know, there's all sorts of, the other,
Yeah.
related to that, what about the notion of setback for commercial uses in pre-existing buildings?
Yeah, wait a minute, that was one of the.
Yeah, that, well, right, so that, I mean, that had to go through if a building did not meet the 20-foot maximum, they'd have to go to the BZA for that. And right, so a lot of what spawned some of this was me saying they shouldn't have to go to the BZA, it should just be an exercise with me or
Adaptive
Steve,
reuse.
just to reuse the
Right.
property.
Mhm.
Right, where did that fall off the list here? So,
No, I think it should be put in right under.
Yeah.
yeah, right,
Right.
right, okay.
And then we should move on to the next one.
I agree.
Yeah, good.
But I just, there's a number of, you know, there's houses that may be 10
right.
feet, they might be 30 feet from the road and,
To reuse
well, an
it.
example would be Olivia's, you know, and repurposing a house into a business, it changes the use. And if it doesn't, you know, have less than 20 feet setback, you wouldn't be able to do it without going to the BZA. And that's just me.
Well,
That-
the home
that-
occupation.
So that one, Leslie,
Store is not
Yeah.
home
Yeah.
occupation.
so I actually pulled that one intentionally off this list because I wanted to do actually a little bit more research on it because a thought that I had was that had to do with seeker and how seeker lined up with reviews. And I think I might have started getting it a little bit, it started to get kind of complicated in how I was writing things out. So originally I wrote things out and they were very straightforward, and then I added a seeker component to it.
Okay.
Because if you, so I didn't want to just start talking about something that I hadn't quite fully fleshed out.
Okay.
It's fair.
But,
So feel
but
free to put it back.
right, right. So the all right, we can.
Freestanding sign, we could agree on that.
What's that?
Freestanding sign, we can probably agree on that.
Yeah, so that's, I think this is the
Oh,
one that, I think this one for the Hamlet neighborhood and Hamlet Center zone, and we have two examples right now. so both these zone districts they allow all sorts of signs on the property, building signs, porch signs, awning signs. And there was probably some reason why they did not allow freestanding signs. I mean, if you think about just think about a downtown street somewhere, people don't have a freestanding sign is just a sign, just freestanding on its own. You don't
Right.
usually have that in a very downtown.
Right, it's sort of a suburban,
It can be seen that way, right? Or yeah,
right, a Miracle Mile.
but there are two businesses that are about to be opening, or at least in the next year or so. And so, both these property owners have approached town board and me separately about, just having extra signage along the road just to capture traffic coming through. I know that Olivia's tenant, Karthik, is hoping to open up the market. I think, and he said less than 3 months.
April.
They're really chomping at the bit over there. And if you think about it, where that building is set to, having just wall signs, you're not going to get the kind of advertisement
Right,
out there.
something up by the road.
Right. And so, there's often fear around freestanding signs that they can get a little gaudy looking or just,
That can be addressed.
yeah. So all those can be addressed through design measures about lighting, about flashing and strobing and
size, to some degree, I mean, you're just doing a giant dollar.
Right. yeah. So my basic proposal, and I just took a couple of signs that I've seen just actually here, like the message board and Lane's Automotive out here, which is a freestanding sign. What else? I think that's it. Is to say a max height of 8 feet and a max area of 24 square feet. So if those sizes are generally agreeable, then the next step would be to kind of put some design parameters around them, just at least to,
How big is the lane sign? That one?
signs always look smaller than they actually are, but I haven't gone on the property to measure it, but
Because there is, it's traffic going right now, we don't have sidewalks and people not walking
right.
around, so if you don't have a freestanding sign, chances are you don't see the sign on the building.
Right, especially if it said that.
Unless it's still light.
Right, and so like so lighting would be a main issue for these.
Like down,
Oh,
like
that'd
the
be cool. I like that.
Right.
I don't know, I think 24 feet is not a bad start. The community's message board in West Danby is 32, 4 by 8. But that's big.
The one that I've never really seen,
Yeah.
I felt.
I think it's not for, how many is that?
That's 4 by 8, so that's 32 square feet. Yeah,
That's one option, that's a rectangular versus a vertical.
right, but that's pretty big, You take that and chop a couple feet off of it and turn it the other way, and you've got what Greg's proposing. 4 by 6. It is 4 by 8. Right, you chop a couple feet off of it, and you've got what Greg's proposing.
4 by 6.
Turn it on end, so then it's taller than it is wide. Yeah.
Right.
That's probably short, but,
Yeah, in the ballpark. Anyway,
All right, so I'll mock up some more language on that. Great, we have something there might be some consensus on it here.
Right.
But-
Yeah, good.
And then the other one,
Yeah, the corner lot thing.
yeah, so this one I did not preview at the last meeting, but this also has just come up in talking to some property owners in the hamlet. So some uses in the neighborhood zone district are only allowed on corner lots.
Yeah. Don't know why that is.
It was the traditional pattern, and it's an interesting question, why was it the original pattern? I don't know, but then, you new urbanists kind of capture what it kind of, in code, what it used to be like and make it the rules for how it should be created if you're going to create a neighborhood with the businesses on the corner. But I, as given the difficulties of doing a business at all in Danby, and where we're starting from, it seems like a kind of unnecessarily constraint.
Right.
Yeah, I can
Right.
see. We've got consensus on that.
Yeah.
Next one.
That's it.
Oh, that's right, the next one is signs.
It's
We're
same
going
as,
to do
yep,
the signs.
same as the sign.
Oh, cool, that's it.
So,
Thank you.
yeah, I plan to keep, I'll probably I'll add these into the zoning, document itself, just so, or at least the freestanding signs and then the corner lot, uses, just to see how that looks. And maybe those are just the only two that just get bundled up.
What about,
But-
I mean, weren't there a bunch of things in the wrong place or,
Oh, right. Those are, yeah, so there were just some errors that just got cleaned up. So those are all in my draft document.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
That's,
I
that
just-
certainly counts as a low hanging fruit.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, we could bring back up the 20-foot maximum. I mean, it sounds like there might be the majority of the board that, I know Paul expressed in favor of that.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, then I'm against it.
I wish I,
Besides the first one.
yeah, I wish I had seen, I mean.
And it's not a rush.
I'm looking at what happened in West Danby in the last 40 years.
Is that where the 6-foot one is, the building?
Where's the 6-foot one? No.
Well, nobody built that close unless they, unless it was already
It's a
there.
replacement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But-
Burnt down and.
But what I'm more concerned about is that, almost all of the houses have been way the heck back from the road on large lots.
Yeah.
And then how the heck are you gonna deal with that by and by, make it, fill it in if you want to try to make it handle density?
Yeah.
Like Stanley Biscuit, and there was like 20 acres, got 3 houses on it.
We already discussed this, so I think we should move on because he's gonna bring it back to us.
Sure. Yeah. Am I next on the agenda?
No, deputizing code and zoning. Hey, you are
Okay.
deputizing.
Yes,
Now, did you find out what that means?
Well, yeah, that's where it
Steve was gonna
originated.
check out.
Is there questions for me?
Did you find out what it means at the last meeting? Steve wanted to know what it meant.
Well, no, I mean, in some, and potentially couple of the judges are here tonight that they might also know too, but it's being able to prosecute people for committing crimes in the state of New York. So to act as on behalf of the people of New York. Because right now, Steve and I could issue notices of violation and appearance tickets, but, and we could act as witnesses in court. Steve might be better at talking about this or some of
Steve has a question.
or some of the judges, because it was brought up in a conversation, this came up because it was in a conversation with Guy and Joel and I about the party that happened last August. Guy asked, does the town want to deputize, the enforcement officers?
This was the first I had heard of it, being a possibility. The rationale for doing it is that it would enable prosecution of more straightforward violations without having to involve a lawyer every time. And then if you get something with, and it might even be less intimidating for people to, not always have a lawyer there because you've got brought before the court. So that was intriguing because it meant we maybe could vote for enforcement without having to spend so much money on the lawyer. And it was a guy who suggested it. And he also volunteered to train.
Right. For free.
for free, yeah. On the process, basically. Which I thought was, because I had been thinking before that, what part of the review of code, potential for collaboration on code issues that this county initiative, there's a bunch of meetings and I extracted from that an understanding that when it comes to prosecuting code violations, the town of Ithaca and Marty Mosley in particular basically practically wrote the book with Guy, and the two of them working together developed this carefully constructed methodology for doing it effectively. So I thought maybe we could ask Marty to do the training with them. Guy volunteered to do it, so that would be as good or better.
Well, might be simpler
With Marty?
with market.
Yeah, right.
I mean, more
Yeah,
understandable, easy to follow.
Yeah.
All right.
well, he said he'd done these, didn't say he'd done these before.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's not like it'd be his first offering.
Yeah, well,
Were you going to say more when we all cut you off?
No, I mean, this isn't my decision. It was just, we were just in the conversation with Gavin and it got brought up, but this
Yeah.
is the town board decision.
So, I mean, yeah, so that's the upshot, if we want to go this way, we have to authorize it.
I mean, I think Steve had some questions.
Steve had
about
some questions last time. I'd
what-
like to hear from
what
him.
Further things
Yeah,
to be responsible for.
Yeah. Go ahead, Steve.
So basically my questions were, myself, I'm already a New York State certified peace officer through my fire police training with the fire district, which basically gives me the legal right to direct traffic on any road within the town. So knowing a little bit about peace officer status, is becoming deputized going to increase my peace officer status, which I would assume it would, because a deputy in the traditional sense has quite a bit of power for law enforcement purposes. So I guess the root of the question, my question was, if Greg and I become deputized, and if there was a natural disaster or a grid down situation or anything that could possibly overwhelm the Tompkins County Sheriff's Department, would or could anyone else in the county who has been deputized be called up to assist the Tompkins County Sheriff's Department in their law enforcement roles? That's a question that I think I need to ask Guy. That's a question I answered because I did not sign up for that level of law enforcement. I don't taking training to be deputized is a whole lot different than going through the police academy and becoming a deputy and learning
Yeah.
ins and outs of dealing with people and the responsibilities of whatever goes along with being a deputy, being verbally harassed, being threatened, being shot at, being whatever. Those men and women go through a lot of stuff every day. And that's not what I signed up for. So that's my question.
I suggest that we hold off till we find the answer to that question before we do anything else.
Yeah, I
And we
mean-
should be able to get that by next meeting.
What is it?
That's a question we can ask.
Yeah,
It's related only to town business or
well,
something.
my impression is that you can be deputized specifically for zoning enforcement.
But that's what we need to confirm
Yeah,
before we just
Yeah, yeah.
shoot. So then we can vote next week, next
Yeah.
meeting.
So what we need is, where are we going with respect to, are we saying if it could be made clear that it's, limited in scope?
Yeah, I mean, if she was comfortable with the scope of deputization,
Mhm.
then, I think it sounds like it's something we should probably have.
Get the scope. We need to answer that question.
To actually
Yeah.
have
A deputized
Have-
person.
the folks being deputized to be able to.
It
Code
wouldn't-
enforcement.
Yeah, I mean, there are certain things that we've not been able to do anything about for years and years, like Wade Gold used to say that derelict cars have been on the list forever. And,
I mean,
there's
these are all
certain
things that
could
can
happen.
be prosecuted, it's just that we haven't been prosecuting. them.
Right.
We have local laws and state laws that regulate these. So,
What if you have anything that, any feelings about it that you want to share, or?
Just that I'm okay to go through with the training.
I'd be pretty interested in the training myself.
we can like deputize you.
You have deputized me too. I like it being dark.
As long as it comes with a gold star.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get clarity on that and then bring it back. Okay, yeah, either ask or break it in. Well, maybe Steve should ask.
Steve, it's probably better if Steve, or you can do it together.
Okay, sure.
Are we dragging this out unnecessarily?
Steve wants to check first. I think it's unfair to check.
Greg is willing to do it,
Yeah,
so maybe.
but,
Go ahead with it, and if Steve is comfortable with what the brand is, all that he would also.
Right,
Thank you.
sorry.
so, yeah, so it'll come back. Hopefully with clarifying the scope will address Steve's concerns. If it doesn't, then we'll deal with it.
Right.
And it should be able to come back at the next meeting. It should be just 2 weeks away.
Yeah, it shouldn't take that long to get clarity on this point.
Well, it sounds like we don't need to get clarity for Greg to do it. I mean.
So he's willing to
move ahead with
risk,
it,
he's willing to risk it all for,
But there's also there's also no rush to get it, so it could just all be as part of
Wait, so you can do it together.
right.
well, it may not be. There's a lot of concern I've had expressed to me by people about a lack of enforcement.
Me too. I
Right.
had
So
one-
I wouldn't
yeah.
say that it's something we want to say, well, someday we'll get to this.
No, 2 weeks from now is we want to get to it.
Yeah,
I've had over the derelict houses has been brought up to me by a person every time I see that person.
mhm.
Um,
So,
That's why I was sort of curious about this thing with the law about houses that, where the landlord doesn't fix the
Mhm.
thing for the tenant, so it's sort of. People have concerns and I think we
Yeah.
should be paying a little more attention to trying to figure out what we can do as a town and what we can't. I mean, some things we can't do.
I remember reading, I think it was a couple of years ago, about it might have been in Groton. They had a run-in essentially with a landlord who was resistant, you know, and for whom there was issues with the tenants. And it ended up in court, and the court sided with the tenant. But the consequence was that the tenants had to move out because until the landlord fixed the problem, you know, they basically thinking it as being uninhabitable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
careful what you ask for.
Yeah, exactly. The mass gathering permitting.
You're up next.
All right. Did everyone bring their special event draft that,
Because I said, I reviewed it, you know,
right,
online, I sent you my comments though.
right.
Do you want me to make a copy of it or something?
No, I mean, I don't think I have my own, I just didn't. It looks like Leslie can share over there. Okay.
I don't have it in front of me, but
So I just, I think just the time to field comments from last time. Paul stopped off before he left for vacation and gave me a marked up copy.
Oh, good.
If it wasn't too much, and Joel sent me his comments online. I'm happy to go over Paul's, and then everyone else can provide comments right now. So the
Yeah, go over Paul, that's good.
All right, I'll just go over Paul's because he can't speak, so I'll speak for him here. So on the draft law that I sent I guess I distributed it at the last meeting, was that in addition to the very first area where its special event is being defined, he added adding a fee for admission. So any event or gathering in the town of Danby which will result in 100 or more attendees and or traffic generation of more than 50 vehicles and be more than 8 hours in duration and or involve overnight camping on property and or a fee for admission. So that was his first comment.
Didn't we have something about the fee someplace else?
The fee is it's called out in the exemption, so that where the property owner or the operator receives no remuneration for hosting the event.
We're going to do it the other way around. In other words, saying if you do receive it, then by definition, if it's all these other things and involve the admission, then it's by definition a special event.
I think that's where Paul was going with that.
And I think that's what you had on the draft, or the list you sent out last time. I think you had that on there, as I recall.
Right. So that was one of his comments.
Last time Pat mentioned, the time of day.
I think what needs to be added is something about time of day as well. They shouldn't be, it shouldn't be 8 hours from 10 o'clock to 6 in the morning. 10 o'clock, you close them down at 10? It shouldn't be from 10 o'clock to 6 in the morning. There should be limits on the hours that they're not only in the hours that they're open, that they're doing an outside event, but the hours, what hours in the day.
In which
8 hours shouldn't be 10 o'clock to 6 in the morning. There shouldn't be an outdoor concert starting at 10 o'clock at night, going to 6 in the morning.
You should just saying that saying 8 hours is
Doesn't
loose.
doesn't address the time.
Doesn't address which 8 hours.
Right. I suggested adding, continue past 9 p.m. Not that you would, it's a definition of a special event. If it continues past 9 p.m., it's a special event. And then you need to go through the process of getting the review, which will address the impacts of like running till 3 o'clock in the morning. Because you covered them pretty exhaustively in your considerations later on.
Okay,
Well, are we?
I'm hearing different things where are you looking? At the
We're still-
Special event A,
We're
adding. another
definition
piece.
of special event. What's a special event?
Okay, and so, and some people are talking about when the 8 hours occur.
Right,
Right.
no,
If that's
no,
what,
it's part of the definition of the event. It should be part of the definition of the event.
when do the 8 hours occur? And
When do they stop? When they occur, right?
Well, the thing is that this is the definition of a special event. So if you're defining it, that's why I suggested if it continues past 9 p.m., it's a special event. If it's during the day, it wouldn't necessarily be.
well, if it impacts traffic,
Well, yeah, well,
That's already on
all
there.
these other things too. But if you had an event which didn't satisfy these other things, as long as it didn't go past 9 p.m., would it be a problem? I'm not saying.
Excuse me, is this a document that I have a copy of?
Who asked that question?
This is Mariah.
Yeah, it's,
I mean, I don't think I sent it to you, Mariah, no.
But didn't,
I just gave
wasn't
I gave a paper copy to the board.
I think it's in the, I think it was in the meeting, I think it was in the meeting folder though for the last
The
meeting.
last meeting, I think, wasn't it? Last meeting or the meeting?
We probably should have linked it again.
Well, yeah.
Because, we did share it. I mean, you saw it, right? Didn't you?
Yeah, I think that Greg just brought a paper copy, but I don't know for sure.
Well, I mean, I got it electronically. I could have sworn it was, if we didn't share it with public, we should have. Because once we started to talk about it here, it's not a public record. Not for anybody who wants to look. And I'm pretty sure that when,
It was not a link on the agenda, did it? So nobody has a copy because,
not this time, but was it,
Mariah didn't have a copy.
was it linked last time?
No, because he didn't do it last time. Last time he had this really nice long list of, options and categories. And then he said we could, then he'd have a draft law and then we can compare the two. He did not do the draft law last.
So this was shared with us since the last meeting?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so it hasn't been shared with public, and it should have been.
Mariah
Well-
didn't have a copy of it, so she couldn't.
Well, then do you want to hold off on
Well,
that?
he should have had it because it was shared with the board electronically. And the clerk is included in communications to the board.
Maybe that's just a
Some-
point of, like a point of clarification then for all parties, because I often send, so I did send this the day after the last meeting to the board and said, just provide comments and we'll go from there.
Right.
So if I do that, is that, and maybe this is
It's
also
not-
for Mariah and my understanding that if I'm to share things with the town board in an email, that those just get linked to some future agenda, is that
Only if they
If
come up
it's-
with
if it will
discussion.
be on the agenda.
only if it's on the
It was
agenda?
on the agenda for tonight, so, because it's on the agenda, it should be.
Right.
Then link.
Well, why don't we just, if it's more comfortable,
The town board, right?
I know, but I'm thinking it might have been, if, I'm just not to speak for Mariah, but if I was, I wouldn't, I might not know to, that it,
Yeah.
to link it, that was just,
I didn't think that either, because I thought, lost track of what that share went.
What else did, maybe we should find out what Paul and.
Yeah, what are the
Oh.
concerns? So I had that same timing issue with Pat did, but I thought, if you're gonna define it, the problematic ones are the ones that go into, potentially till 3 o'clock in the morning.
Well, if you don't do 3 o'clock in the morning, but 9 o'clock is.
Well, I'm just saying if it goes past 9 o'clock, then it's subject to need a permit. If it's gonna be,
Doesn't mean you can't do it. It means you need a permit.
Yeah, that's why I said we're saying two different,
Right,
it's
right.
not that, all that
This is
he's
definition.
saying is
Right.
that,
You'd need a permit if you were gonna have it go after 9 o'clock.
yeah,
Mhm.
and,
And all these other things as well.
and you had more than 50 vehicles or more than 100 people,
yeah, there's a bunch of.
yes.
So that some of the things, if they didn't fall into the and words and all, it wouldn't be a special event at all.
Right.
And if it did, and saying if it goes past 9 o'clock, that's one of the stipulations that makes it a special event. Is that the right way to say that?
Yeah.
I wondered, including exterior amplified sound would be, like, could you have
wait, but
I
I
imagine a
think-
gathering of more than 100 people where they're quiet, like if you had a big group on a hike or something,
Well, I actually can think of one that, you might have even gone, it was the north, south, east, west thing, there was an equinox thing at Ely some years ago, wasn't, there was a band there, but that wasn't the event was quiet.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of people, but I don't know about the cars, so you could say, well, because they're cars and it impedes traffic, so that's where all these andors come in,
Yeah,
I think,
that's right.
right?
That's right.
So noise is only part of it.
But it is one thing that's, if it's gonna be noisy, then I'd wanna have it be, subject to permit. But if it isn't noisy, I might not care.
Well, if it has 100 cars on the road, we care.
Yeah. It's
Oh,
already
yeah, so
noisy.
that's in there too.
Right,
That's in
so-
there too.
And it's not a matter of whether one of us, it's it's a wide definition of a trying to.
What I'm hearing, just to decipher some of it, what I'm hearing is that it might be more of an or statement,
Mhm.
that if it will result in 100 or more attendees, or, you know, just some number of attendees and some amount of traffic generation, and it's more than 8 hours, or if it goes beyond some time at night, 9, 10, 11 o'clock, whatever it is, and then camping is somewhere in there too. Is that what I'm hearing? That if it's, let's just stick on the time piece for a second, because we start talking about noise, we're gonna just start merging concepts here, and this is the thing, that's why I wanted to preview it last time, that it's not just about noise and it's not just about duration, it's about all these things, and you can look at them each in their own little bucket. So if we're talking about duration, is it, if an event is more than 8 hours, or if it's, you know, if it's some event, it could be 4 hours, but it goes from 9 till midnight and it sort of passes 11 o'clock, so you're gonna be kicked into this. Is that what I'm hearing? That's
Yeah.
some
That's kind of where I was
interest
going with it. I mean, no problem if you have a, you know, a festival like the Danby Fun Day, you know, and it's happening in the afternoon and then everybody goes home before dark. No problem.
Ours is different in summer and winter.
Yeah,
But just to
I'll
think
do
of,
it.
and then just to think of some examples, I mean, that's also with the, under the, by putting a max time there, or sort of a, if you hit this time, you're gonna trigger this. But if this event is less than 100 people, or it's less than 50, it wouldn't qualify for this, right? So if it's just this large gathering and large traffic generation, and it's after sometime in the PM, then somebody needs to get an event permit. Just trying to think of all the, you know, just trying to think of all the examples of when something like that would happen. It would be a concert. I mean, that's what it would be. It would be just like a one night concert, essentially. If, you know, if somebody, you know, say here in the Hamlet, had a business and wanted to host a band, and, you know, they were gonna be on until 11 o'clock at night or something.
Well, let's take a specific example. The church is doing it here, but, you know, well, in years past, we had a summer concert. The community association did at Wayne Meyer. It was an afternoon until dark kind of thing, you know. We had a jazz band one year. You know, we had Janet Bash one year, who came and sang songs.
Joel, can you speak into your microphone, please?
Sorry.
They can hear you.
But, you know, we had more than 100 people there. You know. It was quiet. Parking was all off the road because park people in the field.
But that might, I mean, so
Would you have to have a special event?
you might, and I think using those, what's helpful, and some people have brought up, like the art trail, and an auction was brought up. Steve brought an auction to think about these events that aren't so frequent, but that have happened, and then plug that into here and say,
Yeah,
well,
that's what I think, that's what I'm trying to do.
is it appropriate, you know, for an event like that to get a special event permit? Maybe, I mean, maybe that, you know, if you're talking about a church, you know, having
Well, the church was there, you
big
know,
event.
Sundays and Wednesdays.
As soon as we start using the word church, we're gonna have problems, so.
Oh, right,
I think
right.
we should think that, you know, I've been.
Catherine, do you have a microphone?
It's on, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I was saying as soon as we use the word church, there's probably gonna be all kinds of issues that could be something we're not thinking about. I mean,
Well, so then below in the exemption,
It is addressing.
it is if there's available parking. So as part of the exemption, you know, an event held on non-residential property with available parking for the event. And Joel had a comment about what does non-residential mean, and yes, we could get we could parse that out even further, because if it's a vacant lot, is that non-residential? And then you could just park all these cars on a vacant lot. So that might meet that. So maybe it's saying commercial and institutional property, and churches and religious institutions would be covered under that institution. Sort of exempting out, if you have a place of business that can hold parking, or if you have an institution that can hold parking, that you would be exempt from this.
I prefer using those words than using the word church.
Right. Well, usually it says religious institution would be a more
Neutral term than.
just a larger
I can
approach.
think of a lot of things that we might not be thinking about that would fall under that, and that people might be a little alarmed about, so I just might be.
About needing a permit, you mean, or?
No, you
or
think
about
it's
having
for
it.
religious institutions. I mean, that's how some things get happen, because they get classified that way, and they're hiding under that, they're fitting under that umbrella. So I prefer when you said
Yeah.
government, I forget what you said.
Well, I did say institutional.
Yeah,
But
institutional.
religious institution is a word that, or is a phrase that we use in zoning all the time to include churches and mosques, and
Yeah.
you'd have to be a 50, what is it, a 508 CA or something? I could look it up.
503C.
Is that the religious exemption, the church
No,
exemption?
that's the,
That's
not
a
that's
not-for-profit.
not the religious one.
That's a not-for-profit.
I have some friends who are getting church exempt, so I should know.
Different set.
501c3. Right, I said that. Thank you.
It's a not-for-profit. That's,
Right.
Oh, no, sorry. You're right. Never mind.
anyway, specifically exempted is the religious celebrations and functions, but that doesn't exclude Sundays and Wednesdays.
Okay, there are gatherings now that are happening in a lot of places that are fitting under descriptions that you might not think about, that would be these other things. So as long as we have a requirement, the other parts of the requirement, that are danger one, that was one of the things that when this first came up, we were talking about the danger in the neighborhoods, the danger to the attendees.
Mhm.
The idea that the fire department or the ambulance or other, those people would want to be forewarned, et cetera, and
Mhm.
prepared, so.
Yeah, one of the things about this law, it doesn't say these, if you have anything like this, you can't do it.
Right,
It says you need to go to the town and get a special permit,
Right,
so somebody is looking at it.
right, yeah. And then there's a list of things that, and if it's one of these things, you don't need to do it.
And I would say 9 is too early, but maybe 10 might be plausible.
Yeah, private residence, is there some way to, I mean, I'm thinking of who do we not want to have to, say, get a permit?
Well, yeah, that's what
And then
the
about the
exception.
fees? The VFW.
Yeah, the American Legion.
Then it's a commercial.
Yeah, but that's non-residential.
Yeah, the thing on
That'd be exempt.
residential properties.
As long as they have parking.
On from lands of a private residence.
Yeah, it's clearly not a private residence.
Yeah, well, it's covered under B,
Yeah.
it's available.
yeah. But that was the question about what do you mean by non-residential?
Right.
Right, that's right. Maybe the change is commercial or institutional or non-residentially used property. Is that a little,
Mhm.
little squirmy?
So then,
I could wordsmith that.
so that means that we would have to get a permit to do the annual concert if we.
How many hours?
Right.
How many hours?
Well, yeah, it's just less than 8 hours, it's only like 3 or
If it's
4.
less than 8, it doesn't, I mean,
I think he means the West Danby, I'm
Yeah.
not sure what is that,
The summer concert.
the West Danby Association Summer Concert.
Yeah, they're
But
not,
that's not-
they're not 8 hours.
Yeah, they're
It's
not.
not 8 hours, yeah, no, the 8 hours is a pretty big.
Once it was at Wayne Mars, and it's also been at that
Well, we also have the, the summer,
But it's not 8 hours, so it
the
doesn't,
picnic, but either one,
but it
neither one
doesn't
of them.
qualify, so we don't need to look at that.
What if they started at 11 o'clock at night?
They're not going to. You call it overnight
No,
camping, yeah.
Not a problem, yes.
No camping, no camping.
But this is
Yeah,
a
no
good,
camping.
this is a good first start of doing this, is that just defining it.
Yeah.
Before
Right, exactly.
getting into all the other
Right.
things, it's just,
And then if,
Yeah.
what is
once-
it?
Yeah,
Once you qualify as a special event, then you got all the other stuff.
Yeah, right.
But this is a fairly restrictive definition of what constitutes such a thing.
Well, that's,
I mean,
what does it all say?
8 hours.
Oh, no, that was it. Yeah, he added, actually, really not much. Under section 2, special event permit required, where I said that the special event permit shall be obtained at least 14 days before the commencement of the event.
Right.
He suggested 30 or maybe even 60 to allow time to be required for review. The reason why I had it so low was that it's the permit is to be obtained. It's not the permit application is to be submitted. So if I was an operator of a potential special event, I would want to submit it in like 2 or 3 months ahead, just to then have some back and forth, to maybe have to go to if there's an appeal period.
Yeah,
I mean, I would try to think ahead.
you have to have your permit in hand.
You have to have your
2
permit in
weeks
hand
before the event.
2 weeks before the event, and
Maybe it would be useful to put in parentheses.
get
That
your,
means you need to apply sooner than that. That would make it easier for
something.
somebody to understand.
Make it clear that you apply well in advance.
yeah.
you're right.
But it's a parenthetical, it's not part of the, I mean, it's more of an explanation
Yeah,
of what we're just talking
I
about.
know. I mean, I was just laughing because if I could put so many things in parentheses, like, make sure to do your homework, make sure to, don't forget to brush your teeth.
Well,
But it could be, shall be applied for and obtained,
that,
so to put the two.
well, I mean,
Oh.
you've got the application section down in section 4. And you could, in that section, you could say, you have to apply,
Right.
how
no,
far in advance.
Yeah, no, it might be worth putting something in there, and then at least in using our timeline on the town's end of, it's like when I ask people to submit for the planning board or board of zoning appeals, I give them a certain time period in advance. So I think it is worthwhile to say, you need the permit this many days before the event, and you need to apply 2 months before, just so it gives us time to.
That would be helpful for somebody who doesn't know anything about the town reading
Yeah, because 2 months, what it would do is it would allow us to review it on our end administratively, have some back and forth. If there's a denial for whatever reason, then they could have time to then appeal it to the Board of Zoning Appeals
Mhm.
or town board, whoever would be the one for that. So,
Yeah, that would work.
all right, so I'll add that in.
Right, too many events that are more than 8 hours long.
That's only one of the things.
No, but it's a defining criterion, though.
It's
If it's shorter than 8 hours, it's not a mass, it's not a
period,
special event.
not
That's what
period.
it says. It's gotta have at least 100 and last more than 8 hours, or it doesn't count.
Right.
Well, then we have to cover with the noise law.
And then you want me to just go over, Paul may had 2 other comments. You want me
Okay.
just to go over them too,
Yeah.
just while we're here? One, I'll have to ask him what he means. But on application review procedure, section 5, page 3, at the very bottom, he just put variance or site plan approval moves to 90 days. I don't,
What?
Having to build a large stage, and is that what it means?
well, I don't know.
Who
That's
knows?
why I
That's
just,
why we
ask
need to
him.
ask him,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we can
And-
make it up, but it's not
yeah,
accurate.
I don't know. And then the other one was that under penalties for offenses, on the very last page, I added each day of failure to comply with the requirements of this chapter shall constitute a separate violation. And
Yeah.
Paul put, how about a week?
Instead of a day?
instead of a day. So instead of each day of failure to comply with the requirements will constitute a separate violation, he put week.
Well, that
Question mark?
I prefer days.
Me too.
That's
Just do it for 6 days.
the
Yeah,
question for
right.
Paul.
Yeah, no, I like that.
Yeah, I prefer days.
You got it.
So, but I think, just going back to the special event, it's just
Yeah.
focusing on what that is and,
Yeah, and if you can take all those things into account and revise it for us and send it in writing to us, that would be helpful.
do a
Thank you.
count of,
The disagreement.
um,
Well, the different opinions.
well, it would help to think of all the outliers or the events that you've seen over the last, 10 years even, and just put those through this.
Mhm.
Does it meet that? Should it meet that?
Right.
Um,
I think in order for you to be discussing this, it really needs to be made public. So if you can get that to me, I will put it out on the
next-
website as soon as.
Let's go draft.
Well, I mean, we're talking about it now, so it should be available to the public as
Yeah.
it's now. I
But
thought,
it's not, so we should stop talking about it now and
Yeah.
make sure we do it at the next meeting. You can make whatever revisions.
well,
are
have we
reasonable for
got,
next meeting.
have we got what we need in order to revise it?
It's the beginning.
I would say still send me your comments,
Mhm.
an email, and then we could, and then post it before the next meeting.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't send things in writing. I meant to do that and I forgot. I will do it this time.
So I only had a couple of other comments, but then
Or maybe we should wait.
We should wait,
Yeah.
since it was not on the agenda, which wasn't attached to it. After 45 minutes.
so Greg will revise based on what already been said here, and then
If you
we'll
can.
do another round, right?
Right. There'll be many more rounds.
Am I
Well,
missing
not too
that
many more, I hope.
there's no fee for this permit? Am I missing that?
Should we hold off on,
It says the
Yeah.
town
Yes,
board,
we're
Yeah.
we're
town
holding
board
off
will set a
on-
fee, but it doesn't say, it's not part of the law.
there's still an
Yeah.
Application.
I would have to create a whole application.
Oh,
Right. It hasn't been done yet.
There's still a lot more decisions.
Yeah.
Well, if you're ready to, if you want to set it aside and come back to those, then that's what we'll do.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay, all right. Brief review of the organizational chart. I thought after what we had, we met about this, that we could, we got revised and played with, and that what we had would probably be good enough if we could just publish it as being like, how's that for now? And I had this someplace. Here it is. What do you think?
yeah, I thought it looked good.
yeah, I mean, we can, now there's talk about doing a second page for other groups that were
Yeah,
related and it's not that we can't make alterations.
yeah, my only problem, and it's still, me, is that as it currently is, in law, there's no, the West Danby Water District Advisory Committee is not overseeing the operator and the assistant operator. The
But
line.
we were waiting on that till we got the report from West Danby, so I
Here
think
it is,
we could, then
here
we,
it is in the
then
chart.
we leave this as unclear until that point in time. We can put a circle around it if you like.
All of these change,
That's
but
right.
but we need to.
Well, if,
to
in the
get their-
meantime, if we're gonna have an in the meantime, the in the meantime should reflect the current reality. It might change. In fact, it probably will change. But it misrepresents the current reality as it's currently drawn. Because there is no line between between the West Danby Advisory Committee, which is advisory to the town board, and the operator and assistant operator.
So
So the line should go over to
if
the,
there's no relationship,
I didn't say there's no
what are they doing
relationship.
there?
Well, there.
What are they advising the town board on if they have no
I didn't say
Interaction.
it's not that they have no interaction, it's not that they're not, cooperating, coordinating even. It's that they're not in a supervisory capacity. In other words, the operator and the assistant operator do not answer to, they're not the supervisors of those positions.
And I might add that this is not the only place that occurs.
Yeah.
We're looking at planning board here, the town board, and the town board does appoint them, but it doesn't report to. So that is not unique to the West Danby Water District.
No, there's plenty things like that all over the.
Well, I mean,
But in all these cases, the town board does interact with them by appointing the members. So that's an important interaction with each of these.
Sure it is.
Clerk has no relationship with the advisory committee, the operator.
Well, I mean, the way it's, I mean,
Maybe she's got no, I mean, that.
when
position has
she's
no-
the clerk is in the same position with respect to the advisory committee as the operators are. So,
So they should all be like separate and they don't.
well, I mean, I
they're
think,
not- they're not connected, they're not part of the same department and they have no
Yeah,
relationship.
they are.
they are connected, but not, but the,
This chart doesn't show supervisory positions. This did not say the town board supervises the planning board. The lines do not say supervising.
what do the lines say?
There's a connection between them. And in the planning board, the connection is the town board appoints all the members. It doesn't control what the members do once they're appointed,
Right?
but there is an interaction.
Right, and there's an interaction between the town board and the water district.
Yeah, so it doesn't say that there's one is in charge of the other. It says that there's an interaction between them. And there is. You just said there was.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it all needs to get clear, you know, and it would be helpful to have their feedback with the different positions and how they relate to each other. And then we can change it if we need to. I mean, here we have, you know, the clerk, like, by themselves. And having no interaction at all, or no relationship with the rest of the Westwater.
Well, the question is,
That's the clerk.
what do the lines mean? Is coming back to it.
Well, to me,
If the lines,
a relationship. It
It's a
doesn't
relationship and they do have a relationship. So
well,
that
they have a
makes sense.
relationship with us as well. So maybe the line could be, it could be a double line, if you will.
We have a relationship with us.
Huh?
They have a
The
relationship.
operators have a relationship to the town board. They are appointed by us as well, as much as the clerk is appointed.
I think that
Right?
it might be that many of these other organizations, when they look at this, might have several questions in it.
Yeah.
Microphone,
What?
can you speak into, Catherine, can you speak into your microphone?
Working,
Excellent.
maybe this isn't working.
I think I'm hearing you, but, you know, are you not hearing Catherine?
I said, this one's better.
Yes,
I said that, yeah, I can hear myself differently from that one too. It sounds like it, I know.
Sounds like it works.
Anyway, I said that maybe when the the CAC or the planning board or any of the others look at this, they may say, wait a minute, I think it's okay for this to be slightly fluid and it might come directly right back the way it is, but people have, it, to pick one part of it.
Well, we talked about everything that's on here.
I think what we need to do is, this is a draft. We're
Right.
not voting on this. This is
Yeah.
a draft. We send it out and get feedback from everybody. And we're waiting on the West Danby Water District for feedback.
Right.
So that was a brief review.
Well, I would say that what we're trying to get feedback on ought to be, the current, should reflect the current legal framework and not some fabrication or imagination.
We'll wait till we come back and that's the discussion when they bring it back. We can't make up what they're doing ahead of time. and discuss it before they give it to us.
We're indicating something here.
We're indicating a
if
relationship.
you-
That's true.
Between the advisory committee and the operators, but not between the operators and the town board.
The
Why not?
operators go to there, so that means that then there's a
There
relationship.
should be a line that goes
Who's the
across.
second
There should be
relationship?
a line, the line should go across, just like it does to the clerk. If you don't think this means something,
I think it's, I'm just looking at I'm not even looking at what you're looking at, I'm looking at the clerk line, who is only related to the town board,
if
which is pretty, that to me is not,
also
representative.
not representative of the
So-
reality.
but the clerk also doesn't, come to meetings, they don't, we don't go to, that position is a clerk to, I assume the operators and the clerk should be in a little circle all by themselves, connected to the advisory committee, and then that connected to the town board. It doesn't mean that these
But then,
offshoots can't, like the secretary of the BZA can't have a relationship with the town board. It just, it's the first duty is really to the BZA. I don't, so. Yeah, what's that position a clerk of? It's these people are, reading the meters, they're doing all the work
Yeah.
on the ground work. And the clerk, I assume, supports those people and also sends out the bills,
right,
and people go pay the bills to that person. So to me, that is a circle, those three positions. And then if that advisory committee isn't technically between that little circle and the board, I don't know what it's doing there. I don't know why we have it.
because it's there to advise us. That's what it's for.
Then it is a relationship with the town board. You said that.
The advisory committee is, and it's what it's about. It just means, it's just raising.
But what you're arguing about is how is it related to the operators and the clerk?
Exactly. It is a monitoring function with respect to the operators and the clerk.
So they monitor, they don't have an interaction with them, and they
That's-
don't, the
that's-
operators don't report to them, and then they
The operator
report
reports
to
to
us.
them, and that's part of monitoring. I'm using the word monitoring as opposed to supervising, administering, directing. That's not the role. Now, maybe it should be, but it's not. And it never has been. So we could talk about changing, I just think that, the chart can reflect reality as it's currently in law. They cooperate.
We can't, this is not getting anywhere. It's just not getting anywhere.
And we already said at the last meeting, we were gonna wait for the details on that until we get the information from them.
So
They-
why do we
that's
have
why
it,
we
so
phoned
why do we have it on here then?
This is a draft. You put it on here and says brief review.
Yeah. Well, if it's gonna,
Put it on the agenda.
I did.
Why are you asking me why it's on there?
Right now, if we were to change this, I would make a circle out of the operators and the clerk positions, have a little circle, sort of like how this highways off to the side, have a little, attached to the advisory committee and aligned to the board.
Yeah, it really depends on what the lines mean.
Yeah. And then we can wait for,
Well, because,
wait for feedback on
Yeah.
what they think and what,
I guess it really isn't clear what the lines mean, because as you point out, Pat, the meaning varies, depending on what the nature of the connection is, because like we appoint the members of the Board of Zoning Appeals, but then we don't have much to say about what they do. They don't report to us. Same thing with the Youth Commission or any of the other committees,
The
really.
youth commission can report to the board, but the BZA doesn't.
No, they don't.
And so, but there's a line there. I think that you're
Yeah.
You're
that's what I'm
concentrating on
getting
one
at is, What,
thing.
what does the line, what does the line mean?
I think that
I had
the
originally
idea,
thought were who appoints who, you know, sort of in some
That,
ways.
that
But
actually
that
makes
doesn't
sense.
necessarily mean that it's a supervisory role.
Right.
Well, I mean, if it's who appoints, then the line belongs between, goes over to the, between the operators and the town board, because that's, we appoint.
But you're taking them out of the group that they belong to.
Well, they're not,
he wants them out of that.
But yeah,
But if
But
the-
either we leave it or
not appropriate now. We need to wait until we get that information, what they choose, and then we can discuss it. And with them here instead of not talking around behind their backs.
not talking behind their back.
Yeah, we are. We only have a few minutes left.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Still have one item on the agenda.
Yep. Which won't take but a minute. but-
Right.
no. Well,
Well, I don't have a problem. I mean, I do wish that looked different right now, and I know that you disagree, with how it should look, but I wouldn't,
it
I
comes
wouldn't
down
have
to
a problem putting this out and or letting Mariah make it be sort of, hey, you know,
Current
here's a number one version of the organizational chart to be updated and, you know, and
basically,
changed.
And
it
I've-
isn't, the
and I've-
chart's just an advisory thing for us anyway. It's, you know, it's not a law.
no, it's not a law. It's intended to illustrate. And the question is, what is intended to illustrate? Yeah, and that's, and Mariah raised this question we were talking about, and it was a really good question, I thought, is, you know, what is the chart supposed to be showing? You know,
When-
Continuous improvement.
Correct.
you know, because if you can answer that question directly, I mean, what is it supposed to be showing? Then we can critique it and say, okay, it doesn't really show what we intended to show. And what do the lines mean? You know?
Originally, I thought that part of the reason we were doing something like this was to make it so that when we start looking at the organization of documents and et cetera, for the town, it was helpful to have an idea what all the departments and what all the organizations were, period.
Yeah, there's
And
that.
then, once we have that organization, then it was gonna help us with developing a website that would make it easy for people to find things. I think that we're killing that by worrying about some of these relationships rather than thinking about the organization of where people go to find information. And that was one of the questions that we had early on. So this is just a working document of organization of the town. It isn't cast in stone.
And we have not had feedback from any of those other organizations as well, and all of those organizations need to provide.
Well, the CAC is pretty interested to know where documents are gonna be stored and how people, where to find them. Yeah, so that's
what's
part
more
of it.
important to spend time on than this discussion.
I agree.
I would like to see the operators and the clerk position somehow connected, instead of having the clerk position divorced from.
I agree. I think
So
that,
that's the
yeah.
only change I would make on this draft number 4.
However number. we're up
Yeah.
to.
I believe we're at number 8. And
The draft
So
eight, right?
so it makes sense that the clerk of the Water District
Yeah.
Advisory Committee be shown similar to the clerk of the Planning Board and
It's
BZA.
not the clerk of the Water District Committee.
No, I connect, like, in some ways, like how the highway is, you know, the water, the operators, the two different operators and the clerk somehow to get, line like the highway maybe off, pulled off to the side like that with a connection, I
Well,
think,
it can't
to the
be
advisory
quite that
committee.
because we don't appoint any of those other people,
Who?
the highway people.
I'm not, what do you,
They're hired, but we do appoint
what does they
them.
have to do? I'm just saying, like,
Well, they're not
like
connected.
the highway is separated off to the side, just to
They're off the side under the highway superintendent
the
because he's the one who
water
makes
and
the
just-
appointment.
pull it out a
But
little
the highway,
bit.
the superintendent
structurally.
makes the appointments. That's why we need to get we
Right.
still need to get the connection with the town, because the town board actually appoints those other people in the West Danby district and not the highway.
Yeah, well, we got that indicated in the,
Yeah,
in the,
it's- I mean,
in the
all
chart here already.
Connected to the.
Yeah, it's got the highway, highway people all
No, no,
connected
the-
to the highway
West
superintendent.
Danby Water District doesn't operate like the highway does in terms of.
I'm not suggesting that it operates like the highway. I'm just talking about the structure of the chart.
I know, but then it
Period.
wouldn't show that.
There's a line going
Yeah.
over to the line going
It
down.
wouldn't show that.
Well, I mean, there's a line.
There can be a line.
The appoint, if the lines represent who appoints, which I thought was a reasonable thing to suggest, because it does on the other ones. I mean, the court clerk is appointed by the court. There's no question about that. The town clerk appoints the deputy and the record management officer. We appoint, the town board appoints, all the other ones. So they should be all connected by line to the town board.
You got 1 minute for 2 hours.
Right. So that's what I'm just saying, is that there ought to be a line across to the town board from the operator and the assistant operator, because we appoint them.
Well, just put them all down in a line and have them go over to the town board and not to each other. That makes sense. I don't,
Oh, whether it makes sense or not, it's being revisited, right? We're gonna deal with it. But the line ought to go across to the town board because we appoint them, and that's what the lines are showing, who appoints whom.
No, that was one suggestion of what that line means
Yeah.
tonight. That's all. Nobody said, that's not cast in
Yeah.
stone either. I think we're getting
Yeah,
in the
it's not-
weeds here.
Yeah,
Nobody-
well, why don't we
we
just
should wait.
set this aside then,
Yeah,
and not publish it? It's a
I
work
think we
in
need to
progress.
let other
We're not
people have
going-
input into it, yes.
you mean the other members of this
Here, yes,
organizational
yes,
chart?
Yes.
Well, before we can get input from them, we have to have clarity regarding what is the nature of the relationship.
They might be
being
able to
shown.
provide that clarity. That
Yeah.
is probably more useful to see what we get back.
It
Don't
would be.
tell them. And we're now at
That
2
doesn't make any
hours, so we
sense.
have to send a meeting.
Oh, I move we go for 5 more minutes.
Second,
Mariah, if you would go ahead.
Connors,
Yes,
Hunter,
Yes,
Woodworth,
yes,
Gagnon,
So we have,
Gagnon, I'm sorry, did you say yes?
yes, I did,
Great, 5 minutes.
right, and that's all I was gonna say. We have a final authorization, because we're, with this, all the funds will be committed for the housing rehab. And it's for the property at 37 Howland Road. The information was all shared with the board about who it is and what's being done. So,
I move that we approve 37 Hollow Road.
I'll second that.
Rehabbing.
rehab.
Yep. I'll second that. Any discussion?
Congratulations.
Okay, Right. Mariah?
Connors,
yes,
Hunter,
Yes,
Woodworth,
Yes,
Gagnon.
Yes.
Thank you.
Items for the next agenda? Apart from, there's one thing that got postponed, right? It was you and Laura, Leslie, and Laura were collaborating on, what was it?
the surplus.
Oh, right. The disposition of surplus stuff.
oh, surplus, right.
conceivably deputizing,
All right.
assuming we get the information we need first.
Mhm. Of course,
What do you want next one?
we're gonna come back.
You can
It's
decide.
not next month, that's next meeting. This month,
Next meeting.
next meeting.
You don't have to decide now.
We'll see more about zoning and mass gathering. Mass gathering, we said we're gonna come back next time. And who knows what else will come up, because things always do.
Yep.
Okay, that covering the agenda, meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.